What's up everyone, this is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we have a new robot Damashii, however you pronounce that, Gundam figure, robot spirits, robot soul, however you guys categorize that for yourself. I like to call them robot Damashii figures. Either way, this is easily one of my favorite Gundam designs ever. This is the Wing Zero from the Gundam Wing TV series, anime series. There's the packaging. He's got the nice vehicle mode. I don't know if there's actually a name for that, to be completely honest. It's been a little while. There's his head up there. Looks pretty cool. He sees number 118, the side art. I like this one. It's not faded like some of the other ones, so that's cool. Nice pose. And then on the back we have some posing options. They always add the effects to that, which I think would be so cool if they actually gave us effect parts. And then the glowing eyes and chest, again, lighting up would be sweet, but on God, I can't talk. On an RD figure, I don't think that'll ever happen. But as you can see, really nice options for this guy. So let's take a look at him. We have a bunch to talk about. Here's his tray with him not in it. So there's lots of things going on here. Before we get too much into the figure, let's just run through what comes in the tray in addition to the figure. Always use a handy dandy knife to get things out. Just be careful you don't scratch anything. Otherwise you may not be able to get them out so easily with just your hands. We have two different beam sabers, well, two of the same, but they are separate individual pieces that the handle's obviously attached to. They have the little ignition switch is what I would like to call it. I don't know if that's what it's called actually, but you have that, and then you have the nice dark green, translucent dark green. Looks light green, but if you go like that, it's dark green, you can tell. Really nice color to these beam sabers, nice shape. Really like this dark green version, so that's cool. We get those. We have two different peg holder stand things for the stages, and I'll explain why once we get into the review a bit more. This one is for when it's just regular Gundam, and then this one goes on when it is it the other way around? It might be the other way around, hang on. Yeah, so this one goes on when it's in vehicle mode, I think. I might be wrong. We'll go through it and we'll look. I don't remember offhand. That's okay though. Then we have two fake legs, and these swap on when you do transform it into the airplane, just because they can't make the legs actually transform. So these are swap on right there at the knee. We have a new waist piece, again, just for the transformation. This is basically the exact same as the lower torso that we already have. It just kind of locks it in place. We have the cockpit, which is also a shield for when he's a regular Gundam. So that's cool. It pegs on with that peg right there for his wrist. That goes on right here. I'll show you that real quick. I want to turn that. And then you can just peg that in like that. So he's got the cool shield. We have a total of 7 hands total. No, well, technically 9 hands. We have the 2 hands like this for holding the beam sabers or the guns. Those are the same hands either way, which is fine. We have these hands, which are molded together to be a double-handed gun hand for when you put the guns together. I'll show you that when we get to that. We have 2 open hands just for cool displaying options. Not really for any accessories. So those are nicely sculpted though. Standard Gundam type of hands. We have 1 hand with the thumb on it for the beam saber. I wish we had 2. I don't remember there being a particular thing about him holding them like this in the show. So it would have been nice to have 2. But the best thing about this is that it goes on at an angle. So it helps him to hold the beam saber at even more of an angle than the normal hands can. So I really like that. Let's just put it like that. And I'll show you really quick what I mean. Excuse me, my allergies are acting up again and it's the middle of winter. I don't know what's going on. So you can see you can hold it out much more straight just because of that hand. So that's nice for some display options. Put that one back on for the review. And then lastly we have 2 fist hands, because we always need fist hands so that we can have a nice punching pose, which works for me just fine. So 2 fist hands. Alright, we also have 2 little Gatling guns or blasters. I don't know what their official name is, but these are super tiny, but they're really cool. Nicely detailed. And those go on up here next to his head. I do wish, and I remember, I don't know if I remember correctly, but I remember in the show the white panels just lifting up and the guns being inside and them staying there. but they don't stay on this. They just get completely replaced by these little guns, which is fine. It just would have been cool if the white panels stayed. So you can see the guns just go right there, which looks awesome. So that's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and put both of them on just for the coolness factor so you can see what it'll look like with both. No point in doing a review and not showing you. They're a little tricky to get on sometimes, especially if you have big hands like me, but they do fit nicely and they stay on snugly, so that's pretty cool. Alright, now we also have the guns, which I told you about a minute ago. Two big guns, they look cool. The only problem is they're flat pretty much on the one side, and that's because they connect as they do in the show, but in the show they weren't flat prior to, at least as far as I remember. So they do connect nicely, they snap together, which is good. And they both have handles, and of course you can't use the grip for both guns at the same time, so the cool thing about that is they made it, well, they both fold up, I mean that's part of the vehicle transformation, but they made it so that you can see that little mechanism, the handles slide forward. I'll do it on this one. The handles slide forward and then tuck away. So when you're going to combine them, you just want to snap them together, and you can hold it with one hand just fine, but you can use this hand with the two hands as they suggest. It actually pegs into both arms. And then just one of the handles, I suggest using the right handle, it looks better. Then he just holds that like that, and he has the huge super gun, which is really cool. So that's nice. It is a really big gun, by the way. Stands up to his chest. And then lastly we have what he's known for, which are the wings, the wing apparatus. And that just pegs on right there to the torso. I'll connect it in a second, but first I just want to go through this piece so you can see what it actually includes. Excuse me. Each side has just a standard hinge there and a butterfly type of joint like that. And then the wings themselves can hinge this way. They do open up. You can see that nice hinge right there. And the cool thing about that is once you open them up, you can leave them perfectly flat like that, so it's shaped like a T. Or, and this is what you'll need to do for the transformation, you can bring them all the way around. The way the joint is designed, you can put them in any pose you want, and it'll work just fine. So that's a really handy joint right there. I do appreciate that they built it that way. And on top of that, this part extends. You're going to need that for the vehicle mode, but you can use it just as well for the regular Gundam mode. And then we have a ball joint over here, which allows for all kinds of posability, and it folds like that for the vehicle mode. So there's tons of posability in the Jetpack itself, or a thruster pack, or wing pack, whatever you call that thing that you can snap on there. If it even has a name, I don't think it really does. So what you're going to think, though, is when you put it on him, you're going to want these ball pegs to not go this way, because that's going to hit him in the arms. You're going to want the wings to fold backwards so that the wings are facing you, so that they're flat this way. So what you're going to do is just use this joint up here to do that, to accomplish your task. And that will allow you to get him in the pose that I think you're probably going to want to put him in. So let's leave it like that. And also you want to note those little four-sided quadrilaterals just pop right through those slots, and then you can peg that on, and the wings are, come on, get on there. The wings are just the way you want them. Super cool, and of course you can pose them however you like. There's tons of options. There's really no limit to how the wings can be posed on this guy. So that's cool. I like this combo right here. Bring them out just a little bit, although I don't think in the show the thrusters were tucked in that much, so you might want to leave them like that. However you want to, it'll work. I think they do look good just folded down as well. Oh, I don't know if I said this, there's a hinge up there too. I think that was the hinge I covered already though. I personally like to just leave them folded, and it makes for a really clean yet powerful look. So again, that's completely up to you though. So there's his wing. He's one of the taller of the newer versions. He stands about 5 3/4 inches tall. That might be a little generous. It's probably just a little bit under, but it's at the very top of his crown. He's about 5 3/4 inches. So he's definitely got some good size to him, and I'm really looking forward to getting the rest of the wing figures because they're all decently sized like that. So let's take those off and go through the articulation on the figure, which there's plenty. This is a really nice design. The head has a double ball peg, so one in the neck, and then it might be a single peg, it might be a double in the neck, and then the same thing for the actual neck itself. So either way, you have a joint at the bottom and the top of that white neck piece, so really good range of motion. He can look up pretty far, look down pretty well. Of course, he's looking at his chest, but still really nicely detailed and sculpted head. My left eye does have a bit of a globule of paint, but it's not super noticeable in person, so that's fine. Really nicely detailed head. The guns don't get in the way, so that's cool. The shoulder pad is just riddled with stuff. So, well, let's just start at the torso and work our way out. He does have the butterfly joint, which is obviously a ball peg as well, so really good range of motion on that. There's the hinge for the shoulder itself that lifts the arm up, and then you can see the shoulder pad is connected to that piece as well, so pretty good range of motion. This white flap comes all the way down if you wanted to, or just about all the way down, and goes all the way up, so you can do that however you want to. It doesn't impede any articulation. You can pull these thrusters down in here, and these open up. Now I don't remember, like I said, it's been a little bit since I watched the show. Those open up. I don't remember if they stay opened up or if he pulls his beam sabers out of there or not. I think he does, and I think that's what that peg hole is for, but I don't remember seeing that in the instruction booklet. So if you fold down the thrusters a little bit, and then you can put the, maybe these don't fit. I don't know if they do or not. Let's see. There is a peg in there. We're going to find out together. Do they fit if I put them that way? No. They don't fit if I put it that way either. So I don't know what the deal is with the thrusters. If anybody knows why there's a peg hole in there like that, it doesn't seem to do anything. Unless, and I highly doubt this, yeah, that doesn't fit either. So if anybody knows, let me know. But those do open up and the thrusters do fold down, and they don't impede the articulation. So that's completely up to you how you want to display that. We do have a bicep swivel at the white and gray spot there, double jointed elbow, really good range of motion. And then the wrists, what do we have for the wrists? Double ball peg. No ball hinge in this guy, so it's a little bit limited, but not enough to worry about. I do like that it doesn't have a huge gap, so I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of the mobility. For the torso, we have a really good ab crunch between the blue and the red. It can tuck in pretty far, so he can bend over quite nicely and lean back pretty far. And then the bottom one is just a standard ball peg. Each of the skirt flaps are individually ball pegged, so you get that. This one doesn't have the best range of motion, unfortunately. That's about as high as it'll go. So if you want to bring the leg up, you need to fold it backwards, which isn't horrible, but it's not ideal. And then this flap is stationary. That's not going anywhere. The hips are actually ball pegs, which isn't my favorite design. I much prefer the double swivel type of setup, just because this one tends to be loose sometimes, and his legs are a little bit loose side to side. Not so much so that it's a problem, but it is something to be aware of. That said, it does have really good range of motion. No problem at all getting this leg wherever you want, except for to the side, just because the red flaps don't move so well. So what you want to do is probably just fold it forward and then turn this leg to the side just a little bit. And it's probably good enough. There's a thigh swivel right there, double jointed knees, really good range of motion. And then the ankles are extra nice because, and I really like this part, because of, instead of having a standard ankle cover, they have these flaps. The ones on the back, we'll use this leg, are actually just a hinge, so that's really useful. The ones on the front are like a double ball peg, and I can just pop this off to show you. Hopefully I don't pop everything off at the same time. There's a peg at the top of the gray piece, so that moves around on there, and then there's a peg for the white piece. So it has pretty good movability to cover up that ankle joint nicely. This ball peg is just a ball peg that goes into the foot, so that's that kind of motion. And this is actually hinged where it connects, so you have a really nice ankle rocker as well. I'll put the foot back on to show you how that works in a second. Before we do that, I want to show you that it has this compound joint for the actual toe. It has a joint at the end of the gray piece here, standard pivot, so that's fine. And then this gray piece, also the other end of the gray piece, has a pivot. I'm not really sure why. It doesn't seem to add a whole lot, but it is there. So that's up to you if you want to use it. I like to just push it up all the way for the gray piece and then just use the toe joint from there. So let's put it back on and I'll show you the ability of the ankle. If you push the ankle rocker, the ball peg inside the ankle all the way out, and then rotate, you get a really nice ankle rocker. No problem at all. You can cover the foot up. Super seamless, works really well. Doesn't have the best range of motion going all the way forward, but it's not horrible, and it can definitely lean down as much as you want. So really, it's pretty good ankle setup. It looks really good, so even though the mobility isn't perfect, I'm perfectly okay with it. So that's pretty much the general breakdown of the figure. We'll get him transformed. I'll do that on camera since it's kind of tricky, and hopefully I remember all the steps. But before we do that, I want to look at the paint. He has a really clean paint job, even though he's got a kind of a little bit more color than most of the other RD figures of this variety. I think they did a really good job. He's got lots of the gray paneling, 2 tones for the red. He's got the metallic green, the metallic gold, white, blue, all over the place. Tons of color on this guy, which is why I really like him. The yellow on the crown is painted really nicely. I really can't complain about the paint at all. It looks great. We have the dark gray mixed in there on the crotch piece. Looks really, really good. Okay, so how do we transform this guy? And hopefully I remember. First thing, let's go ahead and just swap out the legs. Be careful doing this because there are lots of moving parts around the hips. Just pull on the leg and it'll come out where it's supposed to. You're going to leave the knee in the shin. Put this piece on. I believe these are universal for either side. I haven't proven myself wrong yet with that theory, but we might do that today. We'll see. So again, just be careful of all the skirt pieces. You want to peg that in. Come on, peg in. Actually here, this will be easier. You have to separate the torso anyway, so you can pop that off, and it'll be a little easier to do the legs with that off. Hopefully. Alright, I think that's in there. It's good enough for the sake of the review anyway. And the best way to do it, I think, is to just grab the thigh and then use your thumbs to just kind of wedge in between there to pop it off. Put the new one on, hopefully. Alright, that'll do. I wish those snapped together, but as far as I could find, they don't have any locking mechanism, which is kind of unfortunate. So this piece here, then, we need to turn around 180. So if it was facing forward, it needs to be facing backwards. Then you can pop on the new lower torso, and it can only go on one way. You see the little grooves, those 2 grooves on there? It can only go on to match those grooves. So don't worry about if you're doing it right or wrong. If it fits, it's right. Okay, so pop that on. Now we need to pop out the old one. No problem. And again, this can only go one way, so he's going to actually be facing backwards, which is alright. It's supposed to be that way. Don't worry. Alright, so what do we do now? Now we need to fold the shoulder pads down. So bring the arms out a little bit using the ball peg. Like that. And like that. Hopefully I'm remembering everything here. Then we need to get the wings set up. So if I remember correctly, we need these like that. Or is it a different way? Let's see. Let's get it on and we'll see. I'll just open them up for now. I don't think anybody's really going to display this guy unless they get two figures of him in the vehicle mode. So, I mean, it's cool that they included it, but I don't think it was ultimately necessary. So you do need to pop these out, remember? Come on, pop out. You need to pop those out so that there's enough clearance. Be careful. That is kind of a fragile piece. You can see how small those little sliders are, so do use some caution in doing that. Attach the backpack like normal. Okay, and this is where you want to fold these back. Fold them all the way back so that they snap onto those gray pieces. Fold this one back. That's also a joint you should be careful with. It seems like it's okay, but also it might be a little fragile. So we're just about done. As you can see, we have the general shape of the flyer there. And then the last thing to do is simply to connect the shield. But it's not quite that simple because you have to rotate this piece around like that and then fold this forward. But as you can see, there's a big gap. And it doesn't look like you can do it, but you can kind of wedge it in there, force this down a little bit on the ball joint. You want this to get flat like that. Flat up to that, that part right there so that you can actually snap it in using this clip right here. That goes on the back. You see those 2 grooves? Those fit in there. So that gives you that. And then we have one last step, which is really kind of like the same step. And that is to connect the guns to the shield or cockpit piece. So we'll take the hands off of there, separate these bad boys, bring the pistol grip, tuck that in, and they connect on that right there. I think it might be the big one. Let's see. Oh shoot, I forgot to tell you. Before you snap this guy on, you have to bring out the little tabs for the guns. Completely forgot about that. It's cool that they made it tuck in there too. It looks nice and it works well. So bring that out. You can go ahead and put the guns on while you have it off. It is actually the upper tab, I'm sorry, the upper tab that those connect onto. So those go on there. We have the guns, and now you can peg the shield into place like so. And there you have it. It actually looks pretty good. They did a good job of making this guy turn into the flyer without it looking too much like a Gundam. I don't remember if his face showed on the bottom. I don't think so, but it is there. I think the instructions might tell you to flip it over. I think they do. Let's try that real quick. Why not? You guys are already watching, so you can click away if you want to, but if you are curious to see what happens, then you can stay tuned. I think you're probably supposed to leave the white pieces on the shoulders instead of the guns too, but who cares? Doesn't really matter. Like I said, I'm never going to leave it this way. So yeah, I think you're probably supposed to tuck the face in like that, but it's still, there's a lot of kind of kibble going on the bottom. It looks like a folded up Gundam. But on the top, it looks pretty cool. I do like it. Like I said, I'll never use it like that, but it does look cool nonetheless. So there it is, guys. There's nothing else. Oh yeah, there's something else for me to show you. So this piece is the one to use in the flying mode for the stand. That just pegs into the back of his skirt piece. Of course, you can technically use this one in Gundam mode, obviously. But this one pegs into the back up here on the back of the backpack when he's in his regular Gundam mode, and that gives you a nice peg stand right there. So there it is, guys. There's the Wing Zero. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. Why isn't that turning now? There we go. And in the meantime, keep collecting.